Okay.
It always makes you cry.
He made my punch list.
And that was our first fight. Time is a flat circle.
Like 2 people are gonna get this.
Ooh. Love kale.
Ew. I want him to crawl to me.
Now that was spicy.
Your Honor, I love him.
Why choose means you don't choose.
I want a third act breakup because I want him to grovel.
There are exceptions to every rule.
Trust me, I'm a father. Don't worry, Daddy's got you. Welcome back to the Smut Daddy podcast. Hi,
Hey, guys.
everybody.
Hi.
Today is chapter 16, and I am your host, Father Lib, aka the Smut Daddy.
And I am your co-host, Sister Britt, and we are just 2 besties that found each other on Bookstagram and can't imagine life without the other now.
And today is a Merry Christmas Eve, a happy early 2-day, little bit early release day, because we are joined with, I am so excited, guys. I know the watchers are already going, but I am so excited that Jessica Peterson said yes to coming on to this podcast.
Yay!
I am like screaming for joy. I am so happy to have you here. We are honored. As soon as we started this podcast, I remember texting Britt like, "Do you think that she'll come on?" I was like, "I think that."
Oh my God,
I was like,
I am
really
so honored to be here. I love. I'm just like I thank you for thinking of me. I love doing this stuff. My job is so solitary that it's like such a treat to be amongst the living and talk to you guys. And I just also love that romance is really having such a moment. Like when I started my career, it was very much people were like, "Why are you writing? You read romance? You write romance?" It was still very much like, "Oh, you're stealing your mom's
kind of
like Catherine
taboo."
Coulter's. Exactly.
Yeah.
And now I feel like just the doors have been totally blown off, you know, in such a beautiful way.
Yes.
And, you know, romance is finally getting the love and respect that it has always deserved.
The most read genre for like 2 years in a row. Like, I think TikTok had a huge push in it. And yes, like Bookstagram kind of really starting to gain its footing and traction.
And then just like a younger crowd getting into
I think so many more
the genre.
Women, you know, young women are getting more comfortable in like their sexuality, learning about themselves and not being so like, "Oh my gosh, I'm reading a romance book." It's like, yeah, I'm reading a romance book. I'm learning what I enjoy, what I like.
And I want to talk to my friends about it because my friends are also reading it. And like,
I feel like I've like really recently taken the leap too of like not trying to be like, "Oh, I like to read romance." Like I'm like, I love the smut. I like the spice.
When people are like, "What do you
smut.
like to read?" Or like people will be like, "What do you do for work now?" Because they know I've started like working from home, and I'm like, "Oh, I read smut, and now I work directly in the smut community, and it is the best time I have ever had." It's never really that stressful because I genuinely love it. I love meeting all the authors, meeting new readers, new friends. Like, that's how Britt and I met, was through Bookstagram. Like,
it brings
everything.
people together. Romance brings
truly
people
does.
together. And like, this past year has been the best year of my career for a variety of reasons. But the biggest reason is, thank you. But the biggest reason is I feel like I have found my people.
Yes.
You know, like I have really developed connections and relationships. And I feel like part of the community. And it's like overall just been such a hugely positive experience. And I just love, you know, coming together. I recently did a signing and, you know, right off the bat, it's like we're talking about sex. We're talking about like all these things that I would only ever talk to my best friends about. And now I feel like
quietly.
In person. That's exactly
over
right.
a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And now we're just bringing it all out. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I think it makes people feel less alone, less, you know, weird, stressed. Like, I don't know.
I feel like it is transferring over like into the real world. Like when I started reading romance, it was a little more, you know, not as spicy and stuff. I mean, things were different. I mean, that took a hard turn quickly in my reading journey because I found like Rena Kit. But I feel like even over the years, like I have become so much more comfortable in myself and in my own sex life with my husband. Like, even though we've been married the whole time, he's like, I have seen you like just grow and blossom in all kinds of ways. Like, I'm a little less anxious about like talking about what I like and stuff. So I think it helps in so many different ways, like mental health, everything. Like the
escapism,
sexual health, like all of those things.
Truly,
and like
communication. Like
communication,
I wasn't
consent,
communicating with him like always what I wanted. it. And then I started reading these books, and then he would like listen out loud because I love audio. And now I feel like everything, all around,
everyone
I am
on.
happier.
And everybody has better sex when they are turned on.
He loves romance books. Loves them.
Every man should.
He's like, what are we listening to in the car? I'm like, whatever one you want to start.
Mine still likes to give me a little bit of a hard time, but he's getting better. He's like, oh, you can turn on your book. That's fine.
Yeah. I love it.
Because guess what? It's going to get me in the mood, which is going to get you in the mood.
And then it's all going to be better, and we're all going to be happier in the end. And I love it. I love it, love it.
It is all about, again, it's bringing people together. Physically,
yes,
literally,
more emotionally, more mentally,
and
all
then
of it.
Also in like a friendship sense. But yes, I love all of this. And like growing up, my sex education was very much like, here's an egg. Here, it was very scientific, I guess. Is
that, or it was like, you will get pregnant no matter what you do. And I'm like, that is literally not the case.
You're gonna scare the shit out of you.
Right,
honestly,
you're gonna have sex, and then you're gonna think you're pregnant. And in reality, it takes like the most scientific 3% of 2 days to actually happen.
And I only learned that when I was trying to get pregnant, because I thought, you could just get pregnant anytime before your period.
Me too.
Then my doctor's like,
did you know it's actually like a 3% time, and you have to know your days and all this stuff? And I was like, I was scared.
Nobody ever taught us these things.
What?
Yeah. I'm like, so we were all terrified for literally nothing.
Yes. So yes, I feel like a lot of my sex education was through romance.
I am
very aware of that now as I write my own romance. I'm like, okay, what if my kids pick up one of my books one day and just like surreptitiously, start reading it?
Yeah.
I want them to take away something positive about sex from it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Whatever
Nothing
it may
to be
be.
ashamed of or
nothing to be
anything
ashamed
like that.
of.
Yeah.
I feel like it used to have such a negative connotation when we were growing up. And I'm like, it's not negative. There's
especially for
nothing
women.
wrong with
How
it.
did we all get here, you guys?
Right.
Like, literally. So
I know.
just saying.
Yes, especially for women. Like, oh, you're a whore or a slut, or you just like it
or
too
you're
much.
crude. And it was like, okay, so but how do you walk that line?
Balance it. This teeny tiny tightrope.
That's exactly. And I remember that really well in high school and college, kind of torturing myself. I'm like, okay, I like, have these desires. I want to have a good time, but I also want to be taken seriously. But I also, and just also the centering of female pleasure is something very radical in this world.
Yes.
Even in like, I'm not talking just about like porn necessarily, but like even mainstream movies, like you always see in a sex scene, it's never about the girl.
Never.
The only thing really off the top of my head, because that was the point of that movie and books, was like 50 Shades. That's what changed my mind, is because this was some dominant guy, like a hard dom, no limits, and he was taking the time to make sure the virgin was taken care of, that she had a great first time, that she had pleasure. And that's what changed my eyes a whole bunch. I was like, this guy is a billionaire, and he's going to take the time for like a nobody girl. And that's where I was like, I need all of this. Yeah, he cared. He gives a shit. And then, it keeps going. But I remember watching that and everything, and reading it, and I was like, this is great. Like, this is about her.
I will forever love 50 Shades of Grey. Say what you want about it.
No, I love it. Honestly, I watch them all the time.
I still haven't read or watched, but I do want to. Like, I'm not opposed to it. I just haven't.
Love them. I remember seeing them in the movie theater. I went with my mom, and she was
you're
like,
a brave one.
And
you're
I was
I
was afraid to do it, but then I feel like we both were like, this was great. My mom, by the way,
but now that I know what your mom reads, like,
my
I'm just
mom
like, okay,
reads
but like at the time, like, ooh.
The most filthiest smut ever. Like, sometimes I'm like, whoa, that is crazy,
made me blush.
Mom.
That made me blush, Mom. Yeah.
I feel like it's just amazing. Like, truly. I love them. They're a classic, cult classic for me in the romance world.
I will revisit them, and there is just something very powerful about that fan, and I think, you could do a deep dive into it, but I think one of the things that drew us to 50 Shades of Grey is exactly what you're talking about. Like, everybody wants that first time. It was like reliving your first time the way it should have been. And then also I remember, E.L. James saying when she was writing it, she was a mother of young children, and she was just like, I wanted somebody else to take care of dinner. I wanted somebody else, to take care of the planning and all of that. And so I think there was like, that was very much part of the fantasy. And I think, so many people are like, oh, women are just reading this for like, you know, the kinky stuff, like the butt plugs. And I'm like,
it's
that's
literally
part of it.
everything else.
I mean,
but it's like, even if
yes.
you took away the red room scenes, I would still love it and enjoy it because of their chemistry and them learning
and the
how
way
to
he
coexist.
wanted her, the way he desired her and craved her to be wanted that way. The intensity of you know, his obsession with her, I think was something that it's like Twilight, same thing. He's literally wants to suck her blood.
Did you know
You're
that is
Libby's
a
language.
fan fiction of Twilight?
Oh, yes, girl.
Did you know?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a huge Twilight fan. Like I have I
am
have
too.
fangs and my forever. But I think that's how like I found it. I was heavy in my Twilight, and then one of my friends or something on like AO3 was like, "Did you know that 50 Shades is like just a weirder, like human version of it?" And I was like, "What?" And I read it, and I was like,
version, and we're here for it.
And she's so clearly Bella that I was like, this is everything I've ever wanted. It was everything I wanted. And I think a lot of people took the same journey as me, and or like of all of us. And so I'm just like, wow, like she nailed it. I mean, I still go back to it all the time. I love those movies.
I do too. I revisit certain scenes, and I'm just like, there's something so, you know, as a author, I'm like, okay, I wanted like what made this really compelling to me. And I just think so much of it is really masterful from a storytelling perspective.
Yes.
Like we were very much enthralled, us and a billion other ladies on the planet.
And
literally.
just for the time too. Like she was so ahead of her time, and for it to still be on everyone's mind.
And
like
how much
this
hate she got for it.
I know.
You know, even like
she's a strong woman, truly. Like she paved the way for so many.
Yes, for all of us. She blew the doors off for all of us. And I just think also, you know, like the press tour for those movies, it was very much like, you know, Dakota Johnson was very like put on the spot in a very weird way.
Because you can talk about this stuff without it being weird, but everyone made it weird.
Nobody knew how to talk about it yet. And now
the media made it weird.
The media made it weird. Exactly. And so now, I mean, you know, we have Bridgerton, where we have like dudes in cravats.
That
like,
was my
on
gateway
screen.
to Smut was Bridgerton.
I
love Bridgerton. But like,
did anyone else see that they like dropped a fireplace? They like dropped their fireplace on Netflix, so you can put it on for the holidays. The Bridgerton fireplace, just so everyone knows.
Will Jonathan Bailey go down on me?
I know. I was like, do we think he will just start crawling and be like the dog that crawls up in the bed?
I love him. He was
too the best casting for Anthony Bridgerton. Oh my god,
I loved their season. I won't lie though, the first season was
first season is my favorite. It was just special.
It was so hard.
It was so beautiful. I cried. I remember that first scene where they're planning it and going with the dancing like back and forth. The cinematography. I cried. I was like, wow.
The music was beautiful.
And
it was so it was moving, and then it was also very sexual. But it was like in a tasteful's the wrong word because I don't like that word. But the sex added to the story. It was part of the story.
It did not take away. And I feel like even though it was like Regency or like the historical era,
Regency,
I feel like it, like all of us, a lot of women can just relate because of her feelings. She wanted to act on him, but you can't. And so I think we were all
raised.
We
and
were
taught.
all like gripping, like, oh my gosh, I understand you. Like, also, I want to wear your dress. You know what I mean?
Yes, and like, right in that carriage and just,
Christmas Day 2020 is going to go down in my memory books history. Yes. I was like, okay, Merry Christmas.
Right? Like, thank you, Julia Quinn. I think it's really interesting that like a Regency romance is a hit show right now. But what's really big in the book world is contemporary.
Yes.
You know, we're seeing lots of hockey. We're seeing lots of white shoes. We're seeing lots of, you know, cowboys. And so I think it's a really interesting dichotomy of like, okay, Bridgerton. For a while, like historical romance was where it was at. That's where I started my career. It will always be my first love.
That's where I spent 2 years reading solidly. It wasn't until last year that I was in a slump, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll give contemporary romance a try, and started with Gianna Darling's The Fallen Men series, so that was a real way to dive in. But you know,
can you tell that we're crazy? We were like, by the way, we're reading this, and then we're like, let's go over here.
I love that. You know, I'm not like a dark romance girly, but I like want to dip my toes in the water. And apparently, I didn't realize there's like, you know, levels,
layers.
Yeah, like, I feel like there's also dark romance and there's bully romance. And I particularly like bully romances. I feel like they're more contemporary settings, but like they are harsh. You know what I mean? Like public humiliation, like collars, praise, degradation. But like I really like the like there are a lot of like you know, businessmen. I mean, it's very 50 a new age like twist on the 50 Shades of Grey, which is why I think I like it so much. The bully. Sometimes the dark can be hard for me just because I just don't really like all of that too much craziness, but I feel like I've read a good amount too, and there's always something for literally everybody. Yeah. I feel like in every category
of romance, and also it's like you do you, boo. Nobody, you know, is going to judge you for, you know.
We don't yuck yums over here. We might have an opinion for our personal brains, but we truly
it's such a beautiful moment.
You want.
Like, and I think like 50 Shades of Grey, like there's 50 Shades of like the dark romance. Like you can like there are like
there's something for everyone.
There's something for there's something for you, Jessica, in the dark romance world. You just
thank you.
I find it. Some options, ones to tip your toes into.
Thank you. I do remember, like, you know, you mentioned Rena Kent. They're like, Rena Kent, like, don't start with that. You know, like,
that's bully. Like, that is she writes bully romances. Like, I don't consider those dark. I consider those, like, they are dark, but you know what I mean? There's a difference between, this is like Haunting Adeline, right? Let's just go to the extreme. That's not bully. That is dark. Rena is writing bullies. I mean, they are publicly humiliating you. Like, that's like kind of their kink. They get off on that until they realize, like, I actually love you. Like, I don't think I want to hurt you anymore. And that's where bully romances always have groveling, and I eat
satisfying
groveling up. I love when a man has to get down on all fours and be like, I'm so sorry, I was the worst. But by the way, I love you, and I'm probably going to crawl to you. And that, you've just hit something in Father Lib's brain. Something about men crawling to their woman. I'm like, please. Like,
the taller they are, Christian Grey would.
You know, Christian Grey would.
Oh, yes.
He would crawl to her. And that's why I'm like, there's something unlocked in my brain here.
You like that. Okay, well, this is all good to know, because Rena's been on TBR for a while.
So, and I will tell you just randomly, like, I started with Vi Keelan, and I still love her. To this day, she holds some of my top spots. And then Shane East was narrating a lot of her books.
Love him.
Shane East narrates almost all Rena Kent's early books. So Audible was like, you liked this, try this. I went from Vi Keelan literally one day to the next day. I was reading the craziest bully romance, but I loved it.
And you're like, I'm here for this.
I was like,
thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Reading it, I was
British.
Like, yeah.
The Rena Kent ones are okay.
A lot of, they're almost all British, and there are a lot of like second gens, like you can read them as standalones, but like the series I love are sons of previous men that she's already wrote. And so it's like a history of these men, of how they're written.
That's
I
very
love it.
Cool.
I eat it up. We will definitely send you.
Please do, because
we can do a little buddy read if you want.
I would absolutely love that. I'm always looking for new things. Actually, right now I'm reading my first Why Choose. Thank you, Emily Rath. I'm reading Pucking Sweet. It's so good.
Wait,
it's so
did
good.
You just jump into Pucking Sweet, or did you start back at that one night?
I just jumped in at
You
Pucking
just jumped
Sweet.
in, man. That is diving in deep, girl.
I'm just diving in, and I'm only on like page 50, but already she's introduced like 15 characters and done a deep dive into their psyches, and I'm like, that is some like authorly skill right there to like flesh out so many characters and all the connections. I could already see like the little bits of sexual tension, and I'm just like, I'm so here for this.
I'm so excited for you.
What's fun though is you're jumping in at a book 3, but it's taking place in the same timeline that book 1 took place. So you're seeing things from certain people's POV that we saw first, and you're just kind of doing the reverse, and that's
actually kind of fun though. Yeah, I'm excited for you.
Like, I was at a bookstore, you know, the bookseller like recommended to him, like, you know, I listened to a podcast with Emily. I love her. I think she's really smart, really interesting. And anyways, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna pick this up. I love a paperback. I love, you know, just to get off my Kindle every once in a while. And I'm just so enjoying it. Like, it's one of those books I can't wait to go to bed.
I read it earlier this year.
Oh, don't you love when there's a book that like you can't stop thinking about while you're doing other things?
Yes,
because I feel like
so
satisfying. You know, we read a lot, so sometimes they're not going to happen, and that's okay. But when you have that itch to be like, I will do anything to get out of here, so I can go home and read that book.
Yes, and you're
it makes the spark and the itch so good.
Living like when you're like doing dishes and you're like half living in that fictional world. You know what I mean?
Like,
and it's like,
do you think that they would do the dishes for me?
Yes, and exactly. And it's like, gosh, what if he saw me doing the dishes? Would he come up behind me?
Yep. I know you just start living out these fantasies and you're like, this is great.
Can I tell you?
It's getting me through my long, tedious day. So
I haven't read them yet, but Emily has a Regency
Regency
historical romance. Why choose? And it's like I've been wanting to keep getting to it because it's like I'm like, oh my gosh, because I am a Why Choose girly. I love Why Choose, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, we can take like my beginnings and what I love and mash them together. And I just haven't got to it yet. But
normally I don't read Why Choose. I've probably read a good 50, but it's not normally my niche. But
I 50, just like a me.
I mean, I read a lot of books, but. I mean, I've read like 700 Small Towns, so that if that like evens out the scale.
Are you a listener or audiobook?
I listen.
Or?
That's how my ADHD and stuff like has always just loved a 2 times the speed audiobook.
So you can fly through them then.
Oh,
okay.
I can listen to 2 full books in a day sometimes.
How do you afford this habit? Like,
listen, Mr. Smut Daddy just walked into the room and he knows that I have a serious shopping problem when it comes to audiobooks and just books because I like to collect trophies.
Yes.
You know, people are like, KU's going to save you money.
Those?
No, it's not.
I'm like, no, it's not. But I have read a couple Why Chooses this year that I am obsessed with. Like, I can't stop talking and thinking about them. And that's where I'm like,
what is happening?
There is something for everybody. Because I am like small town queen. Like, you want to read Small Town? Cowboys, Brother's Best Friend. Like,
it's for you.
This year I've been like, by the way, I read this Why Choose and it's so good.
But see, it's kind of like things you would never think.
Yes.
Like, but if you just try it,
then
you're like, wait a second, I freaking love this. Like,
and
where
it's
have
okay
I been?
if you don't like it, but I am like the testament to like, just try. If you just keep trying, honestly, you are going to hit something perfection.
And that's why I have a career.
That was Kayla Gross. She X's and O's. I talk about almost every podcast.
I'm so excited. I'm finally going to get to it.
I can picture it in my head. They're so cute.
X's and O's by her. I like truly from someone that would be like, no, it's not normally like my thing. I can't stop talking about it. I can't stop thinking about it. It is one of my favorite Why Chooses I've ever read.
My friend Katie, is reading it right now, and she slid into my DMs today. She's like, "Have you read this?" And I'm like, "It's on my 10 before the end. Like, I'm getting to it. I swear."
It is genuinely.
She's like, "It's up your alley. You're gonna love it." I'm like, "Thank you so much. I knew this already, but it makes me so happy when people are popping in, being like, you're gonna love it."
And they know your taste. They know what you're gonna like.
And so that's why I feel like everybody lately has been like, "What do you mean you're reading a Why Choose?" I'm like, I love it. If I'm telling you to read it, everyone needs to read it.
Good. I am glad that I am dipping my toes into this water because it is really fun so far. And it's just like something different, like a little twist. You're still getting like
to read something different than what you're writing.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh,
that's intentional. Like I read like a biography of Henry V. Because I needed to get away.
Amazing though. From Cowboys and Small Towns.
And also, I have a hard time. I always love romance. Romance it's what brought me to reading. Like I absolutely love it. But it's hard as a romance author, especially when I'm drafting, to not compare myself, to feel bad about my own writing, to be like, God, how'd she get this so right? Like, it's just in a way. I notice when I'm reading more romance, my writing gets much better. But it also is hard to like totally relax. Exactly. And I think sometimes
you're probably on edge a little bit because you just don't want anyone to think like, oh, well, this is like this or this is like this.
That's exactly right. And also, it's kind of like I'm always like, okay, I'm analyzing the structure. Like, what made this opening chapter so satisfying? Wow, she did this. Okay, the spice didn't hit till this mark.
And then the whole point of reading it to relax and turn your brain off is totally out the window.
That's exactly right. And just kind of like, as a mother of young children, I feel like my day is constant like tasks. It's like, okay, do the kids, do my job, do more kid stuff, do house stuff. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, I just really need to have a moment of fun. And, if the book I'm reading is not going to be fun, sometimes you just gotta, put it aside.
Yep.
Exactly. But that's why I think I love the Why Choose thing, because I'm like, I don't write it. I don't write hockey romance. So I'm really able to just like,
so it's still a contemporary romance, but it's very far removed from what you're
that's exactly
immersed in writing.
Right. But I still have a lot to learn from it, but like in a really positive way where I'm like, ooh, I really enjoyed that. I'm going to incorporate this little, idea or whatever. But it's not like, ooh, I'm reading, I couldn't even like tell you somebody, or like, for instance, like a Sierra Simone, who I think is such an incredible writer. Every time I read one of her books, they're my all-time favorites, but I'm also like, God damn, I am never going to be as good as she is. Like, I'm never going to write like that because she's just so incredibly talented.
You are so good, though.
Oh, well, thank you. I
Take
really
it
appreciate
from someone who's on the other side. Trust me, I will give you all the flowers.
Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate. But you know what I mean? When you just read a book that's so good and you're like, oh, it hurts. It's so good. It hurts.
As someone who's not an author yet, but like has the author brain, and that's how I feel. I'm like, there's no way that anything that Libby writes is ever going to be as good as Jessica Peterson or anybody ever.
You just
I know
start.
everyone's like, just start. I'm like, one day they won't.
And
live
it's
in my
okay.
phone.
Like, my first books are terrible. Like, I look back and I remember being like so
not
ashamed.
Terrible. Stepping stone.
A step in that now I recognize. Like, the Emelman Jewel Thief led me to Cash Rivers. So it's kind of like, okay, it's 30 books in between there.
I'm excited to dive into that.
It just took a minute. But yeah, I mean, in retrospect, I'm like, damn, girl, be proud. You put yourself out there.
You are amazing.
You just got better.
It just got better. No small feat ever. I will give authors endless hype. 1 book, 100 books. I can't believe it. Because as someone who's like wants to do it, I'm like, are you guys kidding me right now with like being superheroes and moms? Some are like other full-time jobs, 3 jobs, full-time teachers on top of everything else. I'm like, literally superheroes, all of you.
And my brain is not author-minded at all, so I'm just like, you guys are just masterminds, and I don't know how it works, but it's truly magic. It's magic. You guys are That's amazing. What that is.
Well, you guys are very sweet. Thank you. Our went out today, so I could use that little pat on the back. I appreciate it.
Let me just tell you, we're obviously going to get to him, but when I saw Wyatt pop up on my Kindle, I was like, sorry, Cash, step aside. I've been waiting. I've been in this woman's comments and DMs for probably every day.
I have been waiting to, and I have to, like, everybody knows this. I've talked very, like, openly about it. But just, I wasn't expecting Cash to do what Cash did. Cash was a really tough book to write. Enemies to Lovers is so difficult to get right. When I had the final draft, I'm like, I got it to a place where I'm happy with it, but it's a very slow burn.
Loved it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Seriously, I really do appreciate that, but I was just very uncertain.
Enemies to Lovers is always a great one, in my opinion.
And I am someone that genuinely loves, I love insta-love. Like, I am someone that used to not read slow burns at all, and that's why I ate it up. I couldn't stop reading it. I was like, what is going on? Give her your hat. I'm like, what are you doing? I loved it. It was so
the ultimate edging moment that I waited for the hat moment until the epilogue. But anyways, writing Wyatt, I'm like, oh my God, how the hell do I replicate what I did with Cash, but with new characters in the same world? And I love these characters and I love this world, but it's just like, I just felt like a moment of like being very lost. And so to get this book out and like, doing my final read through where I was like, I fucking love this book.
Yeah,
it felt really
incredible.
Good.
You're awesome.
But I just, there was a moment where I'm just like, I feel like in a way I've been waiting my whole career for like a Cash to happen, where it's like just this explosion of book love. It's been the most wonderful surprise ever. But that means you have to, in romance, I released 4 books this year. And so it's like, you got to follow it up. Like, you're always working on the next thing. I loved
your last series. We can talk about all of that.
Yes, I would love to.
Let's bring it all the way back. We chatted a little bit, obviously, but like, were you always reading? Like, who were you reading growing up? Did you always enjoy it before you found romance? Or did you wait till you were like in college? Or
so I grew up as a very quiet, introverted kid. My dad was a big reader. My mom had her Danielle Steeles and her Catherine Coulter's. But I, as an introvert, was very happy to stay in my room with a book. That was my company. And so that's how I grew up. And then, discovering romance in my teens by kind of stealing my mom's books.
I always stole my mom's Nora Roberts.
Nora, Queen Nora. Right?
I always did.
And good for you, because she's a great person to steal. She's a great person to read. I remember reading one of her books from one of her very first ones. I remember the heroine was smoking in it. You know, like lit a cigarette, like unironically. And so anyways, always have been a reader. In college, I was an English major and always knew, you know, at some point I'm like, I would write stories in high school. Like my dad bought me an Apple computer and it was like one of the boxes. You know, like the big...
a colored one?
Yes, I had a
what
color.
Color? Purple. Oh,
I wanted that. My office, if you can tell.
I wanted that pink one so bad.
Right? They were so
bad.
Cool.
Is that the computer that she bought in Coyote Ugly? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was clear.
Also,
and you could
love Coyote Ugly.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would watch that movie on repeat all the time.
I'll watch it right now.
The music.
I love it.
I mean, it's just like, it's so fun. It's so fun. But anyways, my dad bought me this computer in high school, and I would, like, at night, like, write my own little romance stories. So anyways, always knew I wanted to be, you know, an author from that point on, but it was like in college, you're an English major, and everybody's like, well, you know, you still have to get a job. And you, like, can't make a living as a writer, which in retrospect, I'm like, if I had only ignored that advice, I would have started writing when the first indie rush came, when like the Marie Forces of the world were really changing everything, and E.L. James. But instead, I ended up working in finance because job,
womp.
that's what everybody, womp womp, exactly.
9 to 5.
And 9 to 5.
Like that's advice like a lot of people heard, or like, I'm obviously not the same, but like I always wanted to be a cosmetologist, and my parents were like, did you know that that's not a job? Like you cannot make a living. And so I went to nursing school, I became a night shift nurse, and then I saw this wedding industry boom of pre-COVID, and I was like, do you know that everybody's making like hundreds of thousands of dollars doing makeup for weddings, which is all I ever wanted to do. So I went back and got my cosmetology license, and I loved it. Like, I still have it. I loved it. Like, I would have started so early. I would have done the high school program.
If you had trusted yourself. Yeah. But, you know, when you're 20 years old, you're like, of course, like, you know, your 50-year-old dad, you know, or
who has a stable job and a big, like a nice, even if it's not the best, like, you know, you've known stability. You're like, okay,
right. You've been
I guess I better
take off of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're like,
that's
I guess I should listen to them because I don't know anything. I don't know anything.
And I will say, like, actually, my dad was the one that, like, when I graduated college, he's like, you know, we'll support you if you want to be a writer. And at that point, that wasn't going to be like the right call anyways. I think the wrong call I made was taking a job that I knew was wrong for me. I should have found something that I could have done, whether it was going to be in publishing or like another life I wanted.
Editing or something like that.
Or even interior design. Like I love design, and talking to my cover designer, Nejla Kwamber, who is just such a goddess. She's so talented. But she started out thinking she wanted to write. And, you know, to make money, she was kind of doing covers on the side, and then she discovered, wait a second, I don't actually love writing. I love graphic design. But I still want to be in the book world. So I wish I had, the advice I would give myself now is like, find an adjacent career, some kind of creative career. Like, don't go work on a trading floor because that's what everybody else is doing. Like, go do something adjacent, and then, you know, figure out your way to becoming a writer, because it's often a long and winding road, and, you know, it takes a while. And again, coming back to the point of like, you know, everybody wants their debut book to be this big splashy success, and 99% of the time that's not. So you really have to commit to the long haul and to learning your craft, really learning the craft, learning marketing, meeting the right people, going to conferences, all of these things. And it's really important to have like a steady paycheck in the meantime, so you're not freaking out about your writing income. So anyways,
working on like the back end for authors, I have learned so much, and just finally seen like what you guys do, like on your everyday. I work with Elliot Rose as one of her PAs, and the amount of
she's a busy girl.
The amount of stuff that she emails and sends and has planned, her whole half of her 2025 is planned. And I'm just, I'm just like mind blown at just how much you guys do and how many avenues there are. Things I never thought about. I was like, I'm going to write a book. Yeah, well, I want to write a book still, but I also now know you have to have 100 check marks before that book.
Right.
And I think I used.
What do you do with that book? How are you going to market it? How are you going to get people to read it?
Yeah, that's not even marketing. That's just to get the copy on a drive or like something so that you can hold. Then you're like, now I have to find people. And I'm just like, wow, you guys are incredible.
So like, there's this whole other business side to it that's cool. I honestly do enjoy it. But at this point, it's kind of like, okay, I need to spend my time writing, because in romance, you know, I really look to somebody like a Laura Pavlov or a Catherine Kells who release 5 books a year. And not always.
But like they're right. They're like even every 3 months, they're like boom, and then after that comes out, they're like, here are our ARC signups for the next one, and here's this and here's that. We were able to have Lena Hendricks on, and she said that
Lena's another one.
She's published a book every 4 months since she started.
Yes.
Crazy.
That's insanity to me.
Isn't that crazy?
But it
you
really have been publishing every 6 months since 2014.
I mean, I've been trying. I definitely slowed down significantly when I had my kids. I had 2 kids in 2 years, and I intentionally took my foot off the gas pedal. But the year prior to having Grace, my oldest, I think I released 3 books, and then this year I was like, let's see if we could do 4. And literally, like, Wyatt will be the 4th, like 4 days before the year ends.
You are incredible.
But it takes a lot, and I have a whole slew of people who help me.
Do you feel like you have curated a really good Jessica team behind you?
It is the best. That's really like the key to this year being the best. It's just feeling like I have found my people. I can rely on them. They cheer me on when I need it, but they also, like my beta team, we work really well together because I'm like, you got to tell me the truth. You can't just kind of gloss over things.
Yeah.
I need you to tell me, I actually really don't like Molly. I actually don't like, and that's the stuff that helps me create a better book.
In a constructive, nice way.
Yeah.
In a constructive, nice way. Totally.
I'm sure that it takes time to learn, but like, you can't please everybody. But like, if 100%. There's something that like 12 of them are already saying, they're like, okay, then there's probably 1,200. There might be 1,200 then that also agree. If it's a 1 or 2, one off, like, okay, but like, I think this is how it works and flows in my mind. And I feel like those are the ones you can be like, that's not going to really change. But
I feel like stay true to you and your story and...
Yes, but also make it commercially viable. And it's also like, a book, at least, the kind of books I write, I want you to get lost in them. Like, I want you to totally,
and they're so easy too.
Thank you. But like, to, love the story and the characters so much that you don't want to leave it. You just feel like, you're living in this fictional world, and it's just like, it's that book you can't wait to pick back up again. And so it has to be fun. It has to be enjoyable, and I do love writing the spice. So, it can't just be on the page though.
Does that come easy to you?
The spice comes easy to me.
Really?
I love the spice.
There are some authors that we've talked to that that's their thing. They have to insert spice here. You know what I mean? And then they go back. So you think that those words start flowing just because you know what you want from those characters and those moments?
I also think sex scenes are the moment when, like, the characters are letting their walls down physically. Like, they haven't necessarily maybe opened their hearts yet, but they are letting their bodies kind of do the talking. And so there's just this element of intensity where they're connecting in a way that they haven't connected before. And so I just love writing just that, like, juicy intensity where it's like they are just getting so lost in it, so lost in each other, and then just having these like magical nights, weekends, whatever. Like, I'm writing Sawyer right now, and it is like, it's the book where there's sex in like chapter 3, right? Like they they're literally starts with a bang, and I'm like, okay,
those are the best.
And I'm like having the best time writing it.
Not even if it's insta love, but I love insta lust too. I love it. Like, there is something so good about a slow burn. Like, I really learned to appreciate it. But there is also something so good about opening a book and them fucking in chapter 1.
Literally. Those are my favorite kinds of stories to write.
Yes. I'm like, that is so good. Because then you're like, well, now what's going to happen? I get like all giddy. Like, what's going to happen?
They have that connection. They have that chemistry. But like, what about outside the bedroom? Like, what happens? Like, when
what's
they start
the
to
catalyst?
that?
I also feel like the catalyst comes quicker in that. And I do like a good plot. And so if you're getting like sex in chapters 1 through 5, then in chapters 6 through 10 that there's going to be a problem. Is it her boss? Is it the nanny? Anything. You know what I mean? It's like, then my brain starts going excited. Like, what do we think is going to be a problem here? And I love it.
Exactly. No, it's just it's so juicy and satisfying. Like, it's just like you have that, like, I don't know, that intensity. And I think they're also just like, they're having fun with each other. Like, it's fun. It can be funny. It could be silly. It could be, a moment
intimate,
of like,
but like,
yes.
kind of lacks though sometimes too, which is like what it is. It's not all the same. Like I feel like sometimes, you know, for a while, maybe back more in like the 2020, a lot of the sex scenes I was reading, and it could have been when I was reading, they were very like, this is it. We're structured this and this. And now we're getting so many creative ideas, so much fun, so, you know, super intense. Or it could it could be a hate fucking, but it also could be just like, let's have fun. I'm going to throw you around. Let's get whiskey involved. Like, let's do something.
We could try new things. We could be adventurous. We could, you know, like tie each other up with lassos. We could like have fun with cowboy hats. It's so exciting and
let's
so fun.
Let's bring out a writing crap. You just never know.
You just never know. I will say, like, you know, now that I'm like on book 30 or whatever it is, it's like you do. It's like, okay, what haven't I done yet? Like, what new thing can we introduce to, like, you know, and obviously like with different characters, the sex is always going to be different. You have to incorporate like their inner conflicts into, you know, the sex somehow. But it's also like, okay, now we can do crawling. Now we could do, you know, like butt stuff. So it's just like, you know, it's fun, but then it's also like, okay, at some point it's like, I don't want to feel like we're just like, you know, going through our Rolodex of like sex stuff. But it is, you know, it does get to be a challenge, especially it's something like Cowboys where, okay, there's only so many times they could get it on in a barn. Like, we gotta change this up a little bit, you know? And so anyways, but I do really love to write the spice, and I also really do love to read it, and I appreciate a well-done sex scene.
Heck yeah.
We do too. So before we get into book 30, like, let's take it back. What led you to the Hope Diamond trilogy? Like, what led to that first series? Because those are, I haven't read them, but when I was trying to deep dive, are those more like Regency?
They're Regency romance historical.
So you were
traditionally published. I mean, I went.
The covers are beautiful, by the way.
The covers are beautiful. Absolutely love them.
So I know you said they're not the best. They were your stepping stone, but like
they definitely were my stepping
huge,
stones.
You know, that was a huge thing. Like, how was that process back then? Because that was like what 2013, 2014 you were writing?
More like 2010, 2011, 2012, something like that.
Yeah.
Back then, I mean, it was like the Tessa Dares and Sarah McLean's and, you know, Lisa Kleypas. Like, those were the gals who were selling a ton of books. Those were the gals getting the big contracts and all the attention. And so I was reading them, loving them. They were bringing this whole new voice to the Regency genre. And really contemporaries were there, but they weren't... you know, the big thing.
They were not what people were talking about or reaching for at the time.
Right. Exactly. So I decided to write historicals. Lo and behold, historicals are hella hard to write. All books are really hard.
Only imagine, honestly, like just for the speak alone.
The speech, and then think about like even getting undressed. You know, Cowboys, you take off the Stetson and the Wranglers and the Ariats.
Kick off your boots. And you're like, did you know there's 100 laces in my corset? And there's something else on under
petticoat, and there's like, you know,
petticoat,
it's just like a whole thing. And so even to like get them undressed would require like hours and days of just intense research, which honestly, like I'm a history nerd. I didn't mind it, but to keep up with the pace of publishing while also doing that was just insane. Long story short, those books did not end up selling well. And so Penguin declined to pick me up for another contract. I was totally crushed, thought my writing career was over forever. But interestingly, at the same time, a lady named Colleen Hoover was coming out with, you know, some interesting stories and indie publishing them. And then, you know, Marie Force was jumping on. Courtney.
I do sometimes forget that Colleen has also, though, been writing for so long.
She truly, like, blew the doors off the indie thing. And so, you know, talking to my agent for a hot minute, I actually wrote a couple young adult romances because young adult was really big. The Rainbow Rowell. I love YA. But honestly, got turned down by publishers. And in a way, I am so glad that door got closed on my face because I love to write sex too much. Yeah. You know, YA does not.
You're stuck in a little box square, you know.
Love the spice. Like, there are some books where I'm like, let's just read sex. Like, I am not here for the plot. I am liking more plot as I get older, but I think that's where I love to jump into a YA. It's like if I
100%.
want like something so like epically and like a very like Pride and Prejudice, like, oh, are we? Will they? Won't they? That's where I reach for the YAs because they're always like, well, they hate each other, and then it's kind of like fade to black, and I'm just like, oh, you guys.
Right? Like, ooh, made my heart pitter patter. 100%. I love YA. I will always love YA. But anyways, I'm glad that I
spice,
didn't end up. Yes, that's the thing. I love the spice, and I'm really glad that again I was crushed, and so I'm like, okay, how much rejection can I possibly?
Did you take a break after Hope Diamond, like because you were worried?
Writing.
Good
for you.
Always kept writing, but it was such a blow to the ego. I was just kind of like, what am I going to do?
Do you think in the long run that made you stronger, though? Like, it helped you as you've gotten bigger?
Yes, at that point, I did not have a concept of resilience in terms of if you want to achieve something great or become really good at something, you have to have an extraordinary amount of resilience, like years worth. Yes. And I just remember there were years when I would write 2, 3, 4 books, and it just felt like I was spinning my wheels. I would write one, release one. It would get a couple good reviews, a couple bad reviews. I couldn't get my marketing in place. My agent at the time was wonderful, and she was really trying to advocate for my work, but nobody was biting. And it was just rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection for years.
It's just got to be so hard.
It's just like bad news bears.
At any time. But, you know, when you're doing, like, when you're trying to get into this.
Yes. But in the meantime, I'm also going to conferences. I'm also making author friends, and I'm also reading, like you are, essentially. I was reading a book a day and just trying to learn what made a bestseller, what made people love this book, what made me love this book, what's hot, what's not. Like, when you pick up an enemies to lovers romance, what do people read the reviews? What do people love about it? Banter, hate sex, tension, like all of those things. Okay, I'm going to incorporate those things into my next enemies to lovers. So in the meantime, I'm doing all of this research. So in a way, I gave myself my own graduate degree in absolutely in romance writing and publishing, over like a 10-year period. And anyways, long story short, I decided, I'm like, all right, my agent at some point, she's like, maybe try going indie. People seem to be having success at this point. It was like Elle Kennedy, Kristen Callahan was coming out with some new adult was really big. And so I started the Study Abroad series based on my experience studying abroad, write some college romance. And at the time, new adult was like blowing everybody's minds. Yeah. Because, young adult, high school, romance, adulthood. There was nothing bridging that gap. And so it was really cool. And that started my foray into indie publishing and into contemporaries. And once I started writing those books, I'm like, ooh, I like this voice. This voice is fun. The spice is right.
Was it hard to switch from Regency, though, to like the college era?
Definitely. And like,
did you find your brain trying to go back to Regency while you're in like the lesson series?
Yes, the lesson series. Even then it was like, then I learned people want dual POV, not just the heroine's point of view. They want the heroes. Okay, so to learn to write from that male perspective.
Yes.
But like, was your first one third POV? Like most historical romances, I feel like, are third. Were you writing third? Okay.
Especially because I think what like my husband had to learn when we were like reading books and stuff together, it's like he would be like, but a guy wouldn't do that. Exactly. This is a man's POV to please a woman, which is the key. Like, and now he gets it, and he understands that
this is what the ladies want.
Women,
this is why everybody needs to read romance.
Was that hard to write that first POVs of a guy trying to find your voice?
But I will say it's really interesting, especially now that, like, with the audiobook explosion, people not only love the male POV, they want the sex scenes from the male POV.
Yes, I do. There is something so satisfying. I don't know what the right word, but you know what I mean? It's like, you're like, of course we know what we want. We are women. We have those thoughts. But when it's just even though we know it's a woman, like almost always writing it, there's something about being like, of course that man loves it. And it's
of course he does.
Obviously. There's something so good about it.
So just thinking of that, the angle of, okay, what do people want to read? What do people want to listen to? And then also, just again, like, the taller they are, the harder they fall, getting into the guy's POV, getting into his head, and just kind of, it's so yummy to see him let his defenses down, especially a guy that doesn't let his defenses down for anybody, let his defenses down for this one particular
hear
gal.
His inner monologue, because like sometimes they're like talking to themselves while doing it, and I'm just like, oh, I'm eating that up. I'm eating up your
Or they're like, like, don't look at her butt. Don't, oh my God, stop being such an animal.
Don't
look at her tits.
You know,
oh God,
we gotta be a professional. And there's
yes.
like, oh my gosh, I'm on the board meeting. And it's like, but I literally can't stop staring. I love it.
And it's just like, oh my God, this is so, like, you're eating it up. Like, just give me a spoon. Just give me a spoon. So yeah, but honestly, now I love to write the guy's POV. And
Do you
I
think
also,
it's easier sometimes?
Yes. I think also, unfortunately, readers can sometimes be a little tougher on the heroine in terms of
1,000%.
But I am a girl's girl. I used to ride hard for the guys, right? And I would be way critical on the females. But as I think fantasy, honestly, brought me to more of being a girl's girl in romance. Yes, and now I am critical of men. Sometimes I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you are not doing what I want you to do for her.
You're being such an asshole. Like, you are being such a prick. But they are more easily forgiven in real life and in fiction.
For sure.
Being, like, especially with Molly, for instance. She's going through some shit in Cash. And to just kind of see her struggle with that. And in the meantime, like, Cash is a total asshole to her, and she's an asshole back. He's such a dick, but she's a dick back.
I love it. I'm like, you give him that sass.
Yes,
you
that's
better
exactly
sass
right.
him.
And I wanted her to really, like, come back at him, like, swing it, and also for her to be complicated. I feel like, the more we write and read heroines like that, the less pressure we put on ourselves to always be pleasant, perfect people.
I'm not going to smile more. I'm not always bubbly. Like, I'm a real person who goes through real life.
Who's
I'm
messy.
allowed to be a dick sometimes too.
That's a thing, and it's just like, you're sometimes you're an asshole, and sometimes you're an angel.
Messy.
Life is messy.
Grief, life is messy.
Grief is messy, and yes.
I know that there are some times where we don't want to read that, but those are the stories I gravitate to. Like, where I can find real life moments, real life things I can like compare my stuff to. Like, that's what makes me feel like more seen, and like I'm like, these romances are for me.
Yes, it's just like less alone. In your experience.
Did you see better numbers with, like, study abroad with all the lessons? Did you see what you wanted?
Not really. So that was, but it was kind of like, okay, all right, we're going.
You took this step to the next.
Took this step, and then it was kind of like, okay, royals are really big. Let me try some,
Was that
royals.
kind of like a fun contemporary play on Regency?
Yes,
because I love
like
the connection.
Yes.
And I just also love, like, London and the UK. I just love British history. So
Louise Bay, I always go to her.
Obsessed with the United Kingdom and all thing royal. So when I saw Keep Calm and Carry On, I was just like, that's exciting.
Right?
Louise Bay, I always go to her for royals, British men.
Right, exactly.
They're so good. They're
Mr.
so
Mayfair.
Good.
You
just named my favorite.
Yes.
There's something, and they're always like, I am an American going abroad to be, this barrister's whatever, you know what I mean? Like, his assistant, and I'm just like, why is it so good? Like, I am obsessed.
Every time. It hits every time.
Every time.
It never gets old.
Did you know, like, for that, it would be a trilogy, or were you just going to see where the royal took you?
I have learned you have to plan out a series in advance. First of all, romance readers generally, not everyone, like, if you look at a Tessa Bailey, she doesn't write in series right now.
Oh, no.
I don't think she does.
No, most of them are standalones, or she does that classic duet.
Yeah.
Yes,
and that's
exactly.
it.
But everybody else really, if you look at, again, a Laura Pavlov, a Catherine Cowles.
They're 4, 5, 6 in a novella sometimes.
So that is what I learned. Okay, so I wrote the Royal series, and then I had this idea. I'm like, look, I live in the South. I love food. I love Southern guys. Love Charleston. I'm going to set a series where there's like a hot chef. And
that's the Charleston Heat series, right?
Charleston Heat. And that was the first book of mine that I would consider a success. Where I remember when Southern Charmer came out, first of all, I felt like I hit my stride as a writer. I finally, something clicked in my brain where I'm like, this is the kind of book I want to write. And I wrote it. And I was able to do it. I finally had the skill.
Good for
and again, at this point, I'm looking right now. This was book number 10.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's like your 4th or 5th series at this point.
It took me at least 10 books to get to a point where I'm like, all right, I am obsessed with a book I just wrote. Every other book that came before, I am proud of it. But now going back and reading it, I'm like, ooh, like this could use a lot of work.
Yeah.
But
like you would still pick up Southern Charm and you would read it, right, today? I know people that are still going back and finding your stuff. So you're like, that's a great series.
It's a great one to start with. And so I feel like I got the voice right, the characters right, the setting right. And that was the first book where it just like, it really took off. And I felt like, okay, I'm finding my readership. I'm finding my groove. I got, I took a marketing class on ads that transformed, my.
This was still indie, right?
This was, everything was still indie and still is. So anyways, that was the first moment where I got traction. And then that series just kind of went like this. And it was awesome. I still love those books. I'm still so proud of them. They still sell well.
They are on my TBR. Like I have
thank
them
you.
upstairs.
But there's so many. Don't feel like you need to. But it's just like
no, but like I am
because
I found you from your next series, like that. I
Harbor
found
Village.
You from,
yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, no, I guess maybe. I found you from Highlands.
North Carolina
I found you from the
North
Carolina Highlands. And that's where I was like, why is no one talking about
Thank you.
Like, honestly, because
thank you. That means a lot.
I love it. I'm like, there's something I eat up
Southern
about
boys.
These Southern boys and these
and
small
towns. And the small towns.
Oh
exactly.
my gosh. So are you always planning ahead? Like, were you
always
like,
planning
Charleston
ahead.
Heat is this? Now I know we're going to Highlands.
And now I know that what my readers really want is small town Southern romance from me.
I eat them. I read them all in like 4 days. I was like,
thank you, doll.
And then I made my
really
mom
means
read
so
them.
much.
No, seriously. And then my mom read them. She loves them too. We read all of you.
Well, thank you. So yeah, but in between, I had my kids and really, put my career in neutral.
Of course. You got to, put yourself and your kiddos first.
Exactly. And I, had postpartum depression both times. I had a emergency C-section the first time. My recovery was just, I couldn't
even imagine. No,
stand upright for like
and
6 weeks.
And the postpartum is like no joke. Mine hit late. Like I feel like I really thrive in that newborn stage, if I'm being honest, because I think my pregnancies are so terrible.
And
that
it's a relief, and then you have your baby.
And then they turn about 1 year old. I completely tanked at like 1. I thought I was doing awesome. And then Britt and I were friends already, and I was like super, I'm not doing too well. Like I was doing so good.
Exactly. Yeah.
So of course you have to take a step back. Like good for you though for understanding. I think sometimes people push too hard because they have, they feel like they have to.
Well, and you get momentum, and I had worked really hard for that momentum.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's really, really hard, to kind of take a step back and recognize, as I'm
first.
Put myself
putting
first.
Your kiddos first, so you're like, what about me?
Right.
I need also to help myself.
And just my husband works a ton, so it was just kind of like I felt very much on my own, with the babies.
Absolutely.
And
we understand.
Trying to do it all. Yes.
Trying to do it all, and it's kind of like the expectation. Before you have kids, you're like, hell yeah, I'm going to bounce right back.
You're like, everything's going to be so awesome. Everything's going to be great. I'm going to be a superhero. Like, I'm literally just going to be wearing this baby on my hip, and I'm going to be going to book signings. Like, I'm
going to be going to book signings. I'm going to be working as much as I was. I'm going to fit back in my jeans. I'm going to feel as good as I always did.
You literally blink, and it's been 6 months, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Literally.
What's happening?
Literally. I mean, only this past year, and Madeline, my youngest, is 2.5, like I was saying. Only in the past, 6 months do I feel like, okay, I feel like myself again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where it's like I can travel without a disaster happening. Let me not know what I say that. Or it's just like I don't feel so much like a prisoner in my own home, essentially.
Yes.
Of
And for a lot of us, we want more than one. And so then right when you're starting to feel normal, you're pregnant again. That is my case. And then I'm like, okay, well, I guess we just keep going. I'm like, I don't know anything anymore. I
mean, I see you, girl. I see you doing that work of it's just you're committing to the suck in a way, and bringing babies earthside is no small joke. But again, it's this expectation that's It's no big deal to be pregnant.
Don't complain.
It's no big deal. Yes,
it's
to give birth.
You're
like,
so
why
lucky.
are you great? Yeah, and
so
I'm like,
lucky,
yes,
don't
we
you love
are
it?
lucky. It's amazing, but I actually hate it. It's
actually
absolutely
really
terrible.
hard. It's
and
hard. Yes.
It's tough.
Do they forget that they come out and then like you have to keep a human alive and
with your
yourself
own body
and
like,
you're
oh
trying to make sure your relationship with your partner is stable. Plus you're also trying to make sure your relationship with everyone else around you doesn't fall apart because you need a village.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly
I feel
right.
like everyone
village.
just I feel like everyone just forgets. Like they're like, well, you had a baby. Yeah. And now sometimes it's even harder. Like,
oh my
keeping
God.
a human
Now
alive.
you're like, now I have to keep that thing alive for, 18 years. And even my mom laughs at that. She's like, 18 years.
18 years,
Just you're
right.
40. And you still call me 2 times a day.
I still call my mom when I have to go to the grocery store for something. I'm like, where do I find this?
Yes, it's so true though, right? Like
No,
it never
is.
ends, and it's a beautiful thing because my mom is my person, and I want to be like the person for my girls. Yeah, and it's just like that's like always been my guiding light in terms of how I'm going to structure like career versus family, like how I spend my time. But it's still very much like the struggle is very real, and I keep waiting for it to get easier, and in some ways it does. Like I'm not suffering from violent morning sickness, and I promise that does pass. But at the same time, it's like, okay, now I have like, a 5-year-old going to kindergarten and she's like, wonderful in some ways. In other ways, she can be like mean to her friends and I have to like parent.
They can be
like,
little
really?
shitheads. And I'm like, what is happening?
We try to keep it honest too because like we love our kids, but like everyone
love them
knows
dearly.
Everyone knows we love our kids. Like, but does anyone know that they're also little demons? My toddler, terrorist right now. Straight
100%, girl.
I'm just like,
I get it.
Like literally,
Same.
it was fine. And then I blinked and I was like, you're like actually possessed.
Where did my sweet
what
baby
are
go?
you doing?
And then I have
did
a
my
5-year-old as well who's in kindergarten, and his teacher's like, he listens and he does this and he does that. And I was like, oh, that's great because he doesn't do that at home.
Doesn't do it at home.
She's like, to be honest, Brittany, that means you're doing something right. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you.
You're the
but
safe
like,
space.
it's still just is like, what
I
the
think
hell?
I think I honestly just started learning that. Like, I'm still learning it because I'm a new mom, like, learning this stage. But, like, I was asking his pediatrician crying. I'm like, why does he scream at me? And, like, what is wrong? She's like, nothing. Like, he's so comfortable with you that he wants to, like, share his emotions. And I'm like, well, what
Can
the
you share
fuck?
them less? Like,
What about my emotions? What about my emotions?
Yes, and then like sometimes I just feel like people forget like we are still humans. You're asking. There are times where I want to scream at him because I just am like overstimulated.
I'm like, please stop touching me. Can you scoot over? Like, just stop it.
And then people will be like, but it's okay. Like he's great. It is okay. He is great. But I'm also still allowed to be a human. Like we try to normalize that here. I'm still a human.
Still,
I'm still
you're still going to mess up. And Dr. Becky tells us it's all about the repair and the apology.
Yes.
So
I am so big about apologizing to my child from day one. I like honestly because
and one day he will turn around and be like, "Mommy, I'm sorry I yelled at you."
And
because
I love
like
that.
you're modeling that behavior. So now my 5-year-old will be like, "Mommy, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you." And I'm like, "Thanks. I just had to lose my goddamn mind
for 5 seconds." Like sometimes
finally,
but now you just made it up because you apologized. So
oh my gosh,
like,
or they like
makes it
give you the cutest little look, or they'll be like "love you," and I'm just
love
like
you, and I'm just like okay,
I'm like, okay, well, all forgiven.
Eat your sweet little face. Exactly. No, the struggle's so real. To bring it full circle, the struggle is so real.
So were you trying to like plan? Like I know that you're like doing your postpartum. Like seriously, no joke. It is so hard. But like, is your brain like still author brain activated? Like I know harbor.
Pregnancy and birth and children did a number on my creativity. Let me tell you, like it killed it. And it's really something that I've struggled to access. And that's one of the reasons that I absolutely am like having a blasty blast writing these Cowboys because I feel like I am back.
Yeah, your groove back.
Got my groove back somewhat. And don't get me wrong, like there are just moments. You just like life never goes to plan when you have young children. Like children in the house, period. Yeah. Right. Always. So I'm always behind on deadlines and I feel like I'm always scrambling and always having to write more words than I want to in a day. But I just feel like for the first time I'm like, okay, I'm still on the Zoloft, but it's not making my brain dead.
Yeah.
You know, like I still I'm getting that like juicy creativity back, and it has just been
I love
awesome.
that you're being so open and honest, because I feel like sometimes everyone's afraid to share it, and it's like so many of us, mothers or not,
for
go
6
through
years
this
now, and it has like been such a lifesaver. It has saved my life. It has made me a happier person. I mean, it is like I will never forget. Like 3 days after I started taking it, it was like a little sun rising inside my head. I'm like,
I'm on Buspirone, and it has worked wonders for me. I did finally realize I have ADHD. Honestly, a book let me realize that I had it by Lila Sage.
Late diagnosis, lady with a
And so then I was like, before I was pregnant, I was on ADHD meds. Changed my life. Britt will probably tell you that's why this podcast got going. I was like, why couldn't anyone just read like a high school Libby?
Oh my God,
or college Libby would have just had a med. A lot, it would have been easier, but I'm glad I found it. And then I feel like some days it's what makes even on the worst pregnancy days with this, like hyperemesis, I'm going back on my meds. Like day one, you know, like I don't breastfeed because I want my mental health to be the best it can be, even if my postpartum hits later. But it's so nice knowing that there is something, that there's going to be help.
And there's a light at the end of your tunnel.
And like, even though it'll still be hard and postpartum probably will still hit, it'll be okay. Like, I know, like, you're going to be okay.
Net, and then it's like, maybe you have to adjust. Maybe you have to take something extra. Maybe, you know, like, but it's just the beauty of, like, you know, everybody thinks, oh, not me, never me.
No,
and,
it's like,
you know.
I honestly try, maybe it's not the best, but that's my anxiety. But like, I feel like I am like, let's figure out the worst case scenario. Like, what is the worst case? Because if it's better, perfect.
Then
you
great.
know? And then if
on
it's
the right
worst
side.
case, then, you know, you were kind of prepared for the worst case. And I know that doesn't work for everybody,
Hope
but
for
like,
the best, expect the worst.
You know literally. What I mean? Like,
yes.
Like, I'm just so thankful that you're so honest about it, because I feel like a lot of moms, like a lot of readers are moms because they want that escape. So I'm glad that they'll be able to hear it, like, from all walks of life. Because sometimes I feel like we hold these authors, like we hold you guys on such a high pedestal, because we just are like,
such a joke to me, because I was like,
and like, it's not that I'm trying to negate, because you guys are, but you know, you probably see it like, oh, like she's just that you're high and mighty and all this.
I mean,
but
I feel
you're
that
a
way
mom.
too.
You know what I mean?
I
like,
literally,
but you are just a person and a mom, and it's so nice to bring it back down to like, we are just people.
We're all, you know, figuring this out as we go along.
We're all living for the first time.
That's exactly. We're all living for the first time. Thank you, Christian Grey. If only you had been my first time.
Right? I will take him or Edward Cullen literally any day.
Either. Oh my God. Yes, please. I'm into it. But yes, I mean, again, like, just being open about all of this stuff, and just open, you know, like, again, romance is like opening the door to like women's sexual experiences. Like, the more we talk about things, the less taboo they get.
And we don't feel so alone. And you learn that,
right.
like, what, 75% of us are honestly all struggling with some sort of the same thing?
Yes. 100%.
So you're going through the trenches, and you're trying to figure out just how to get it. But like, so what led you to Harbor Village? Like, that was your first thing writing after taking your break?
Exactly. And I had started working with my publicist, Nina, who, you know, has just like totally transformed my life and my career. She's awesome. Love her. And she is a really great brainstorm partner. And just like in terms of, okay, we were seeing what was hot. We're seeing Small Town really have a big resurgence with Elsie Silver. And I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to set a series on Bald Head Island off the coast of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And this was this first series where we started doing influencer outreach, where we're focusing on social media. I got my gal, Megan Reynoso, who works for Valentine PR, who works for Nina. She is my social media expert. Guru. And she is also just like, she's a voracious reader. She knows everybody. She knows everything. She's just really smart and really well connected. And so she's just like, okay, here's the tropes that are really big, and here's the post we're going to make about those tropes, and we're going to make it pretty, and so anyway, she's kind of keeping her hand on the pulse of like what's hot right now, and like what's selling, what people are talking about, what people are excited about. And so I have her on board now. And so, okay, we're working, like, we're kind of doing this bigger picture thing. I'm getting my creative mojo back somewhat. And so Harbor Village, every book, it was kind of like, okay, they didn't do as well as I had hoped. but I was growing my platform. Oh, thank you. But I'm like growing my platform. I'm going to signings for the first time in like 10 years, which has made such a huge difference. Meeting readers, meeting influencers, like you
seeing the tangible. Because, you know, sometimes it probably can get lost on the screen, but you're like, there are people here, like physical people. Here.
And to like network and meet other authors, like at Book Bonanza, I was finally able to like meet Laura Pavlov and Catherine Cowles and talk about like, oh my God, they're on a pedestal. Like I literally teared up when I saw Catherine Cowles, and I just like turned beet red, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go say hi.
Yeah, I love to hear this, because that would be me
because
internally.
That's how we feel. I mean, so it's cool that like authors do feel the same with their like idols or their,
oh my God,
I went to become friends. Like, what a weird thing to be like idolizing them, and now they're your friends, and you can bounce ideas off them.
Exactly. It's like, it's the coolest thing ever. So anyways, in the meantime, I'm doing all of this like stuff where I feel like, okay, I'm getting my marketing game in place. We're doing PR packages. I'm creating swag. I'm going to signings. You know, we're really pounding the pavement. And then after Harbor, you know, I'm on the 3rd book of Harbor Village, and I'm like, Nina, what do we do next? We need a new series. The series is not selling as well as I wanted it to. We have to start something new. She's like, Cowboys. You need what? Southern small town. Why are we not doing Texas Cowboys? And at first I'm like, really? Like,
I used to feel the same thing because I grew up in a small town.
Doesn't excite me. Yes,
so
it like, doesn't excite me. It didn't excite me at the time. We were watching Yellowstone. I'm like, I like Kevin Costner. I mean, I like, you know, the show, but I'm just like, I'm not sold on this cowboy thing. She's like, his name is Cash, because everybody wants to fuck a guy named Cash.
Literally.
And we're going to, literally. And she's like, I see the series. It's brothers. Each book is named after the brother, and they're in Texas. And, you know, we're going to do, what if we do like a Schitt's Creek meets Yellowstone?
Yes!
I'm like, oh my God.
That's the perfect... You just took it out of my mouth. That's the perfect description.
Our elevator pitch. That has been our elevator pitch. So anyways, I start researching cowboy stuff. I start reading, you know, Lila Sage. I got, you know, Elsie. I'm reading all of these cowboy romances. I'm watching all these books. I'm like watching interviews with Taylor Sheridan, who is the guy who wrote Yellowstone, and he owns the 4 Sixes Ranch. So he's like a big... You know,
he was on Sons of Anarchy, and I was obsessed with that show.
Yeah, he was on Sons of Anarchy.
Girl, I love that show, and really, you can see how he learned how to write.
Yeah,
from who's the guy who wrote Sons of Anarchy?
Kurt Sutter.
I forget.
Yep.
Kurt Sutter. Exactly.
Kurt Sutter.
You can see what he learned from Kurt Sutter, because Yellowstone is very much like, you know, except without motorcycles, you have horses.
Cowboys.
I've been thinking about starting it. I've really gone off the TV. I don't even watch it anymore. But all I can think about is Libby and her reaction to the first 30 seconds.
Okay,
and I'm like,
can I just be so honest with you?
Yes.
So I have not watched Yellowstone because I am genuinely, like, I wish it wasn't true. My friends call me Queen Anxiety. Like, I am one of the most emotional, anxious, empathic people ever. And so when my mother-in-law was like, you should start Yellowstone, I turned it on, and in 30 seconds, Kevin Costner murders a horse. Like, I know he's putting it out of its misery. But when they showed it all, I turned it off. I've never turned it on again.
Like, I can't do it.
She called me. She's like, I can't do it.
I literally called her bawling. I was like, I don't understand why they would murder a horse in 30 seconds. And I know. I was like, PETA is pissed. Like, what are we doing? So I have never gone back, but I hear so great things about it. But I know that it's like a very emotional.
It is, and it's a
the thing is, like, I love my emotions. I love your Harbor Village, because you're getting some emotions in there, and that's
too.
And I love it, but I don't think I like to watch the emotions as much. My brain, you know, can kind of filter it out. So
yes, oh no, I totally get it.
It was a little rough for me.
So so anyways, the cowboy thing, like, I get where I was kind of like, I like cowboys. I'm not sure if I love them. And then, you know, and one thing that I have started to ask, like at a signing I recently did here in Charlotte, I asked the crowd, like the people there, I'm like, why cowboys? What do you think it is about cowboys that makes them so hot in romance and on TV right now? Like, what are your thoughts? I'm curious.
For me, like, so I literally didn't read Small Town for forever. Like, I've read 700 Small Town in like 2 years out of my 5 years of reading, because I grew up in a small town, and yes, I'm in Ohio, but it's cornfields, and everyone is a wannabe cowboy / farmer. So for me, at first it almost hit too close to home, because I was like, why am I reading this? But then when I finally picked one up, they are like to me, they're almost more far-fetched in a good way than like a mafia man in a mafia book. You know what I mean?
Such an interesting point.
It's like,
yeah,
they are, because, you know, you meet, like, you talk to people or see people that do live in Montana and, like, stuff like that, and they're like, yeah, they're cowboys, but they're not this. It's like, they are so far removed, I feel like, from reality, like, and there's so much
it's
mafia.
a fantasy.
I feel like they live by their own code, and they are just their own breed of men and people, and
they're so rugged, but they love. Ooh. And I didn't ever really get that. I never understood, like, why are you reading found family? Why are they labeling this found family? And then it was cowboys that made me realize what found family is, because they're coming to work because they need a new break, or she's running away and that's the only place she found, and they're creating this such unique and dynamic,
but they're relying on each other for survival,
and I
literally
a
lot of the time,
like,
and maybe that's part,
and you don't
like the
see them so much like on TV. Like, you can watch any mafia or like a crime lord or anything like that, but you're not really watching cowboys like this. And so I felt like reading them, that is like contemporary fantasy to my brain, is the cowboy. It's so good.
That thought. What about you, Britt? What do you think?
I'm just thinking, like, they're rugged,
and
they're
hot.
working with their hands, they're hot, they're giving us everything we want. For some reason, they are removed from the reality. Like, I'm not living around cowboys. I live in the middle of cornfields in Northwest Illinois, yes, but they're not cowboys. It's that escapism, but
they're not taking care of, like, cowboys take care of shit.
Yes, they're gonna get shit done. They're gonna handle everything. They're gonna protect you. They're gonna make sure that you're well prepared for anything. Like, I feel like they're ready for anything to come along, and they'll be like, "Yep, I'm ready for that, and I'm gonna protect you."
You're so right. They're always they will always, like, step toward the fire.
Yes.
They'll never run away from it.
And even when they're like,
and step in front of that bullet, they're not ducking behind you.
Yes. And I feel like it's like, I love their dirty talk, but I just love that they seem so real. Like, even though I don't know cowboys, like, it's the way they talk and the way they carry themselves. I'm like, that is I can so easily,
like, they're so secure in themselves. I feel like
the confidence.
Yeah.
And I love that, like, in a weird way, because it's like a big thing for me, is like, I love that they're not afraid to speak their mind and, like, tell off, like, back the fuck off of her, you know, you're my brother, but also, like, back off. Like, I'm now creating my family within our family, and if you don't like it, then you're gonna have to get the fuck out of my way on my ranch. Like, I don't know, it's something about, like, cowboys' auras that all of you authors are, like, perfectly tapping into in your own way, but all of these cowboys have this, like, aura around them where, like, you can't help but gravitate toward them and want to keep reading them, if that makes sense.
And they all have a really nice house with a wraparound porch, and that's always
been a dream of mine. HGTV Magnolia Homes dream.
100%. Oh my god! Like Chip and Joanna, there's some ship left on the inside.
And for me, like, one of my favorite microtropes I'm learning, like, my top one is, like, men crawling, and something about a cowboy.
Yes, a cowboy crawling. Okay, you need
one.
My
gosh,
good
but
to know.
It's also just like, like, one of my favorite microtropes is when, like, they tell off, like, the girl's family. I don't know where you thought you could come in and tell her what you're doing and talk to her like that, but now my cowboy ass has stepped up to the plate, and you're gonna back off. And when cowboys do that, and it does happen a lot, but it hits every single time for me. Like, it is so satisfying to be like, this gruff man who gets up at 3 a.m. every day to go start his chores is now yelling at someone that I've tried to get my point across to the whole time. I don't know what it is about it.
Sticking
They're
up
just,
for
like, bigger than life almost. Like, and it's not, like, in a bad way. It's just I don't know. It's their aura. Like, and Cash is a great one. Tell us about Cash. Like, tell us more about how, like, him, and who came to you first, Cash or Molly?
Molly came first because she's going to be, you know, the Schitt's Creek, literally like Alexis. On the page.
I'm a little Alexis.
Oh my god!
I like start doing the dance.
Watch the dance. Yes, where she goes. Yes, love that. So anyway, she came to me first. Cash, I will say, once I started writing him on the page, he's very voicey, meaning, you know, ain'ts and it's just like his accent, I could hear him clear as a bell inside my head as I was writing these parts. And what really made this book sing for me as I was writing it was equal parts Cash being exactly what you're talking about. He is going to deck a guy in a bar.
I love it.
Over her. And it's kind of like we can put our feminism aside for a second. It's just like, and
appreciate that it's fucking hot to be protected
so fucking
sometimes.
hot.
It really is.
It really is. And I debated on the bar scene because it's like violence is never the answer. And like in real life, obviously, like I would never want a bar fight.
But it makes so much for a cowboy.
But also,
a cowboy's not going to walk away from that. He's going to be like,
he's going to confront it.
It's also a book. We are safely exploring this fantasy in a book.
If writers can write bully romances with degradation and public humiliation, then Cash can punch somebody.
So we have to trust the reader to know the difference between a pretend cowboy and a real life situation, right?
Yeah.
So
because every real cowboy will probably be like, that's fake. And that's the point. It's like,
it's not meant to be real.
Right, it's not meant to be real. It's supposed to just be fantasy land for all of us.
It's supposed to be entertaining and fun and sexy, and it's supposed to turn you on. And wrong, right, whatever you want to say, Cash turned us on. Yes. And so I intentionally, had these moments of him, telling her off. Telling off, her situationship, like, what the fuck is the situation?
I ate that up. I was like, you get him. You get that man.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And just like him, he doesn't fuck around. He is never going to be, the guy that like, it's just a casual throwaway fuck. He's like, absolutely not.
That's also a point. Is there something about cowboys and the way that they might get into bar fights and do whatever and have a filthy mouth on the regular, like with all their ranch hands, but they commit because they know what they
loyal
need.
And so
because
good about
to be a cowboy and a rancher, that's lifelong commitments and your long days, early mornings.
And you grow up in that life, and
I think there's something about like them extending that like to their girl,
to their ladies,
and I'm just
and just to have like a man feel that certain about you, or a man, woman, whatever, have a significant or somebody you find sexy, like really be into you,
like
and not
they are down bad.
They are down bad. Yes. So satisfying. So, anyways, it was kind of like walking that line between I wanted Cash to be very gruff, very aggressive, very possessive, but also his whole journey with Molly is like being vulnerable, learning to be vulnerable, and like I can still be this big strong cowboy, but also me crying or me talking about my feelings doesn't make me any less.
I'm allowed to have someone where there are no walls ever.
I don't have to have it together all the time.
And I don't always have to save everybody. I don't always have to be the one with the answer. I can kind of just like let somebody take care of me for once, which I'm sure we can all relate to.
Huge on that.
So that was, I always, when I'm structuring a story, I'm like, okay, why does Cash fall in love with Molly? And the biggest thing was she looks out for him. Yes. She takes care of him, like on the dance floor when he wobbles and she grabs him and she's like, I told you I would not let you fall.
Yeah,
and I love it. Like, it's a small moment, but his reaction.
So powerful,
those are the pivotal moments. Like, my gosh, someone actually is doing what they said in the tiniest of ways to the biggest ways.
That's exactly right. And so it just was the fun parts, and even, I'm not giving anything away, but there is like a pregnancy scare, and just like I found it so
Can I
satisfying.
just say thank you for that real quick? Because
can I just say that I'll take that any day.
Really? Because again, that was another part where I'm like,
I just appreciate that you had her instantly go to him and not try and like hide it or anything. Yes. Like I was just like, thank you.
But also I do think that accidental pregnancy is finally coming back around.
It's my favorite trope.
It's my favorite trope. That fake dating and accidental pregnancy.
Yes.
You're in enemies to lovers. You're never going to pry those out of my cold, dead hands. But I feel like this accidental pregnancy is coming back around. So even if it scares or something, I love to see it because for so long, people literally would not pick the book up. Your book flopped. Nothing happened. I'm not reading that. And of course, I was there and a small percent of us. But now we are like coming out in droves. People are like finally screaming like, I love it. And I'm like, me too.
Can I tell you?
I love it.
Every accidental pregnancy book I have written, and the second book in Harbor Village, and then the third book in Charleston Heat, by far the best sellers in the series.
And there's
the accidental pregnancy, like by a margin of like 2-1 at least.
Oh,
that's impressive.
I can't.
I feel like people either love or hate.
Well, I'm appreciating them more.
Don't let her fool you. She used to hate them, and then I said, we're going to start having you read some that are great, and I will take all the credit for that, and now she's easing into it.
I say I'm 50-50 now. Like, I don't hate them. Like, I will try them. Like, I want to try them more because I do want to give them their chance.
Our friend Jules reads romance. She literally would never... She would never pick one up. I mean, I've been trying to get her to read them for years, and I can't even remember which one I gave her. I said, can you just read this for me, please? And then she read it, and she was like, so what other one do you have? And now she's like, by the way, like...
Did I tell you?
Yeah, she's like, by the way, like, I add every, like, accidental pregnancy for the most part to my TBR now. I'm like, they really are... They can be done so well. So well.
Just love to see everybody's reaction, right? It's like such an... you're going to get an extreme reaction out of everybody. But just like, in Cash, to again bring it back around, in Cash, just to see he is even keel.
Yeah.
And I think that says so much about him.
Yeah.
Or not even that, he's just like,
whatever
happens.
Like, yes. Okay.
There's no question.
Yeah.
I love that. He knows.
There's that made perfect sense for him.
Right?
Like some big blowout or something on her that's not him for that,
Exactly. He just felt like very much a grown up. Like at first, he's like a little, being kind of like bitchy to her, just like kind of the back and forth. But then like it doesn't take him long to realize like she's something special, and I gotta like grow up.
Be a man.
Here.
I just need to be a man.
I just need to be a man. And wow.
So while you're writing Cash. Like, did you know? Okay, this is our timestamp, everybody. We are getting into full Wyatt spoilers. Literally, say anything, because this episode will be up like 2 days before, and anyone can come back and listen to this segment. So this is your spoiler warning, everybody. But like when you were writing Cash, did you know Wyatt was next?
Yes.
Like immediately right off the bat, or
totally knew,
or did you think like Sawyer? Like,
so we plotted out. It basically goes chronologically from oldest brother to youngest brother, and basically we plotted out like, okay, book 1 we're gonna have enemies to lovers. Book 2 is going to be childhood friends to lovers. Book 3 is going to be single dad. So every book we knew had a brother and had a trope. Beyond that, we didn't know. And so I left a bit of a cliffhanger in the back of Cash about Wyatt.
Yeah.
A shameless tie-in to Wyatt, but it just felt so right. I was like, I have to do this, because it's just, I saw it so, it was like a movie in my mind. But then I sit down to write Wyatt, I'm like, shit, wait, why did that happen? Like, I didn't have a
you were
plan.
Like, actually, I don't know what that was. That was a random midnight.
What happened?
Random writing midnight bender, and I have no idea.
Exactly. And so I have like, I got a lot of DMs about theories, and I've been very intentional about not, spoiling it or sharing, what it is about. But, Wyatt is really the opposite of Cash in many ways. He's he's very charismatic. He is, a playboy. He's always down for a good time. Whereas, Cash is gruff and reserved. And
Wyatt is the party.
Like, Wyatt is the partier. Yes.
Like, I love the gruff, but there's always something about that, like, wild card in a family. And I'm like, by the way,
wild child,
I love
and the smooth talker, and just
something about a playboy where I'm like,
little
did you
Casanova.
I could fix you. I could make you love me.
Yes.
I could do it.
There's something very satisfying about seeing him fall for like the kindy dorky girl. You know what I mean? Like, we have this very, like rock star, captain of the football team in high school, that guy versus the girl who had braces and violin. And I think this is like maybe my personal fantasy, because I was the girl with braces.
I was a band.
I played the snare drum. I tried to be the coolest part of the band, I won't lie, because I was like, I think guys might like me more.
I mean, I was pumped about my first chair clarinet and tune in the band, you guys. I will tune that.
Oh, you had the clarinet?
Yes.
So yes. So yeah, anyways, that is like a little fantasy wish fulfillment on my end. But yeah, Wyatt ended up being like so fun, so feely. Like, the banter and Cash, like enemies to lovers, is hard to beat. But then also I found immediately with Sally and Wyatt,
Did you just make their ship name?
I mean, there's Wally. There you
Wally.
go, guys. Hashtag Wally. But yes, I found them to be very bantery too, because they have such an ease with each other.
I was gonna say, did you find like the ease or the inside jokes or things like that because they've been growing up?
Yes, yes. They ended up being just like so feely, so tender, and yet also so funny together. And there were just like a couple moments in this book that just like kind of came to me as I'm writing, like chapter 3, and I'm like, oh, they have like a makeout scene in his pickup truck. I need to write that real quick. And it was just like, it kind of like, I kept having these scenes pop into my head because once I started writing their book, I'm like, I know these people and I love hanging out with them. And it was just so fun. And their struggle is really, just kind of like overcoming this idea of I'm too dorky for him. I'm not ambitious enough for her. She, is supposed to take this big job in New York, an Ivy League university to be a equine surgeon there. And he's like, I'm not going to be the one to hold her back. I'm the small town guy. Yeah. And then we also, did a little fake dating lessons in seduction, which is one of my all-time favorite tropes.
I love fake dating.
The way I'm going to be up all night now reading my work. Where is it?
Well, yeah. So anyways, that is the scoop with Wyatt. And I, like I was saying, I am just so anxious about this book because, Cash just, people really seem to enjoy him. And like with Wyatt, I'm like, he's a different character, obviously same world. We're going to have the, same cowboy thing. Yeah. Because, Wyatt is definitely possessive. He definitely, is going to walk towards the fire.
He's still a cowboy.
He's still a cowboy and he doesn't fuck around. But
I always say,
I'm nervous. I will say that.
Oh, don't be nervous.
Don't
be nervous. I mean, I know that doesn't help and you will still be, but the way I hear people talk about it, I just, it's going to be a good one because it's the way that people are like, oh, I always say to authors which here's where I'm a nerd and fellow Twilight fan. It's like Cash was blue tint, and now we're in New Moon where we're in a yellow tint. And then Sawyer will be Eclipse where you don't have a tint because it's just, you're just finally existing. Yes. And I think that's something amazing to do.
I love that analogy.
Because you don't always want the same tint on all your books, even if they're in the same series.
It's boring, right?
And so it makes me as a reader excited to be like, okay, we did our blue tint. What's the yellow tint now for him? And I think that is a great way to look at it. So that
we always have to be moving forward and doing something different and trying new things. It's actually such a beautiful thought, and I really needed that. Thank you.
Can you give a spoiler? What was your favorite chapter? Give us some spoilers. What was?
Oh yeah,
give us a favorite chapter. Is there a favorite line? Is there a nickname? Can you give us some spoilers?
Okay, so there is
I know other people will be itching too.
Yes, it is. Okay, so it starts as an inside joke in the beginning where Sally calls Wyatt daddy. And obviously there's a little bit of but daddy, I love him element here because John B does not approve of Wyatt and Sally being together. And so anyways, there's this chapter.
Because doesn't want to ruin their friendship or doesn't want things to change with the dynamic of the group?
Because John B really wanted to be a surgeon himself, but he didn't, just have the grades and the support at home to get there. And so Sally, in a way, is making his dreams come true. She is
we're living through Sally a little bit.
Exactly. We're living through Sally a little bit. And he's like, okay, she's getting out of this podunk town. Good for her. We can't, Wyatt, you do not turn her head.
Right.
Do not fuck with her head. She's leaving. She's going to change the world. She's going to save lives. Do not mess with her. Yeah. And so John is very much she's not staying here. And obviously, Wyatt, you're staying here forever. So this cannot happen. And so, but anyways, we have some fun with the daddy thing. And there's a moment, so Sally lives with her parents, and there's a moment when Wyatt definitely sneaks over there, puts a hand, one hand over her mouth and one hand on the headboard, and just goes to town. And it is, what chapter is that?
I think it's obsessed. Should I read that chapter first?
Yes.
Then we'll go back and read the sex in chapter 3.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And Sawyer, oh gosh, it might be in the 20s. But yeah, it's towards the back of the book.
Okay.
It's just a really fun one.
Oh! So, does he call her anything?
He calls her Sunshine, and he has a tattoo. There's a whole backstory behind that in the prologue. Oh, we have a secret slutty thigh tattoo.
I told you, the way that I am obsessed with this man's little slutty thighs for some reason, every time you would drop a teaser, I'm just like, hey,
thighs
so what about those?
Like an underrated,
thighs?
Right?
They really are.
I
am a huge rugby fan. I'm a huge fan of rugby solely because have you seen those men's thighs?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was at the airport recently and there was a rugby team there and they were playing rugby in like the baggage claim, and you could totally tell, like through their sweatpants, it was just like
they're
bulging
literally
quadriceps.
This is I have no shame. There's a TikTok page that has millions of followers, and all it is men playing rugby, like professional rugby players, but everything is zoomed in on their thighs. You don't see anything else of the play.
Love humanity.
You just see their thighs, and
they found that niche, and they're just running with it. And it's doing well.
Me and Romance Brooke reads, or her and I are always sending those back and forth. Also, like Emma, like Emma's Books a Million or something like that, or Books at Emma or something.
Like the thighs.
Oh, those maybe every day, every other day. I'm like, did you guys see this one or this one? Or did you guys see this compilation of these men's thighs? I don't know if you
follow me like on like Instagram, but like on my stories, I just like share all the time like hot Riley Green pictures.
And I'm obsessed with it.
Just randomly. With it. But just like I'm also like the thigh thing. Maybe I should jump on the thigh bandwagon.
Honestly, yes.
There's a lot of thigh stuff in Wyatt. So
when you first started mentioning like his thighs, I remember specifically telling probably Britt, I was like, he has like slutty little thighs, but they're not little. God. But
yes,
he just
they're
has
not
slutty.
Little. They just have little slutty tattoos on them.
Help! I'm like, please help! I love it. He is gonna be so good. I'm gonna eat him.
Well, I sincerely hope you guys enjoy him. I'm really happy with the way the book turned out. It's just quite crazy to me, you know, like on this new publishing schedule where I'm trying to do more books every year. It's like it seems to go fast. Like the book, you know, they seem to come up fast, and I'm like, we're on book 2. I'm writing book 3.
I was gonna say, so are you writing Sawyer? Do you like you know how Sawyer wants to play out in your head? Are you finally starting to like hear his voice?
Oh yes, I am having a blast. Like I said, this book starts with a bang, and I love to write sex. So like the first 20,000 words of this book it's just so fun. It's like them at a honky tonk, running into each other, flirting, just having like the best night out ever in Austin, and then you know stumbling home to his like swanky hotel suite. On the way there, they pick up, you know, like, you know, at the little convenience store in the lobby of the hotel, they pick up like beers, Marlboros, and condoms. And it's just like, that's the start of the book. And I'm like, oh my God, I fucking love this.
The setup for a perfect night. That's all you need.
Set up for just a delight of an evening together. So I'm working on that. And yeah, it's just like we did the special edition for Cash, and I honestly was totally blown away by the response. Again, this trophy shelf is new to me. This concept.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful.
I should have, but I've ordered one. Why was it so good? Are you doing another one?
Oh, I'm doing another one for Wyatt, and I actually just got it yesterday from the cover designer. It's so freaking good. But I'm just like kind of doing all of these other things and exciting things like in tandem, and we're doing some fun swag, and it's just like it's a whole new world, but all exciting. The audio is happening. The audio and the audiobook's so good, guys. Like,
don't worry. You know what?
That's how I read it. Was the audiobook.
And
Oh, okay. So there we go. And like, like Stephen Dexter, like it's just so good. It's just, and Lila Winters like she just was like Molly. She brought a softness to Molly. That just like I absolutely just adored. So yeah, I'm just thrilled with how things are going, and I'm just so grateful.
The audio for Wyatt come out like a few months again after? Like, are those on their own type of publishing schedule?
Yeah, so I sold the rights to Podium, which is a audiobook production company, and so it's on their schedule. I will say, you know, going forward, like already thinking about the next series, I would love to do a simultaneous release where it's like we're releasing ebook, paperback, and audiobook together. That just means you have to finish your book like 6 months in advance. Whereas like right now,
so I have the manuscript to get it all turned over for them.
And like, you know, big narrators like Lila Winters and Stephen Dexter, they will book out 6 months in advance.
For sure.
Least. So it's kind of like you have to just be very professional about, I'm going to write these books.
I'd love to get a narrator on here sometime just to see their I would love to get their take on the romance world and how their schedule works, because I feel like there are some days you might not write, or some days you might, and I feel like they literally have to be in that booth almost constantly. Like,
and like, what
someone
if you
like
get sick?
Steven or Shane, or like because these guys that are coveted for these places, like these roles, I'm just like, do you guys ever get burnt out yourself? Like, I would love to dive into their brains on stuff like that, because I bet you that's just a whole, I mean, I know it's a whole other side of it, whole other world.
I'm curious, like, does it just take them one take at this point? Can they literally just like go through and they're like, all right, got it. Or like, how many takes? I always wonder,
do they like read it? Like, are they like, okay, today I'm doing chapters 1 through 3.
Right,
so
or
do
they
they
jumping
read
around?
it and then
I will
do
say
they go back and talk?
Like when I work with them, they are like, okay, I'm prepping the script now to record next week or whatever.
That makes sense, because like I know like inflection and everything. That's
the thing,
big.
and they change voices for you know. So I think they do have to have a familiarity with like the characters and the world and stuff. But I'm like, once they have that, maybe they read it, they highlight it, they're like, this is this character in purple.
They sometimes are taking out certain words. They're not saying every single written word. They're making it easier to. Makes sense when you're listening to it.
Find that hard? Like script changes to work better in audio? Did you find that it was weird? Did they handle that?
Now, as I write, I don't say, ride my mustache, honey, he said. I take out the dialogue tags now just, you know.
So you don't have to go back and do another script for them? Because would that be on you, the author, to make sure the script is in audio form?
I've never done it that way before, but I've just noticed, you know, especially like a master, like let's say Lucy Score, read her books. She very rarely will have something like, she asked, he said, they exclaimed. Like, she just really does not have many dialogue
conversation
tags.
Flow.
Or it's like, you know, she furrows her brow and then the dialogue comes. So it's like, you know, it's her line, but you're not saying. And so it translates beautifully to audio, because obviously you're not wasting that time to be like, you know, who said what. So anyways, and that's like another, you know, learning experience for me as a writer. Like the audiobook thing I'm new to, and it's like, that makes total sense. It also makes for a better like reading experience. Let's do it.
So, gosh, I love Wyatt. I can't wait. But Thank you. When will, no pressure, but like, when will stuff start rolling out? Like, do you have your schedule for Sawyer? Do you know what, like, you have his cover, a new color, I am assuming?
Yes. Yes. So Sawyer is going to have a red cover. It's gonna, like, we have the covers through book 4. I haven't done the cover for book 5 yet. But yes, we are working on the schedule for next year. There'll be some really awesome, big, fun surprises.
I cannot wait.
But yes, for right now, we have Wyatt the end of December, and then Sawyer is going to be in April.
Happy birthday month to me!
Yes. What day are you in April?
April 8th.
Oh, okay. All right. Nice. That's a good one.
It snows every year on my birthday.
Oh, just
in Ohio.
Kidding. You're in Ohio. Okay.
It's okay. It's okay, but it is a good one still. Ooh, love a good birthday month release.
Love a good birthday month
release.
Do you
know who, I don't get in trouble, but like, do you know who 4 and 5 is?
Yes. So 4 is going to be Duke, and 5 is going to be Ryder. The twins at the end, and Ryder is going to bridge us to the next series, which we haven't
the way I need Ryder.
Yes.
The way that I was like, by the way, so Ryder.
Yes. Although I think you're going to like Duke, but I don't want to give away too much. Again, I'm just trying to be strategic. And so book 5, will be Ryder, and he is going to end up with a gal from the family from the next series, which we haven't quite figured out yet, but we're working on it.
That's okay. But like, you are,
exciting.
So you're planning here, and then you do know what you want to do next.
Yes. Oh, 100%.
Well, I think that's a rough outline of it.
A rough outline, and just always, know what you're going to be writing next, what you can be talking about next, what you can be teasing. Because readers do, love to be edged.
We really do. Why do we do this to ourselves all the time?
I'm with you.
But it's we keep coming back and asking for more.
Yeah, every time you guys tease me a little more, I'll be like, "What do you mean?"
Just shameless.
I just want to break into your home and steal your laptop or something. I need the info, but then it makes it more worth it when you
That's exactly
dangling
right.
our little.
Hopefully, it's a satisfying moment when you finally get the book. So so lots of exciting stuff in 2025. I'm doing a bunch of signings. And hopefully more stuff like this.
Yeah. So do you want all 3? Just those 3, the rest of the series?
Oh, okay, yes.
To come out next year, or do you want the first book also of of your next series to come out?
That is a good question. We haven't quite nailed down the, books 4 and 5 yet in terms of when the release is going to be. Hopefully, aiming for
no pressure, truly.
25, 26. But just again, I feel like we have such great momentum with this series. I just want to keep it going.
Yes. And then the tie-in to the next one, that's something I give better time. I know that they don't have to. You could go to a completely different world of someone you haven't met, but there's something just about knowing that the essence of Lucky
it's like a
River
little
Ranch
Easter egg. It's
here
so
you
fun.
go. And then sometimes you might get a random name drop of any of the other brothers in the new one, and those are the little details. I'm a huge details girl, and so when we get those tiny little moments, that's where I'm highlighting, and I'll be like, oh, did you catch that, Brittany? Did you see where they said cash for 2 seconds in this new series in book 4?
Are all of your books in the same world? Could there be crossovers?
Are they on the
they're
same
definitely. Yes,
map?
they're definitely. A same map, same vibe. There'll be little Easter eggs where, in the North Carolina Mountain or Highland series, Stevie owns a brewery. Her beer will show up in a Harbor Village book. So it's kind of little Easter eggs
those
that.
Those are the
That's
details
so
I love.
I love
that way,
that.
if you do have a reader that has been with you or loves to backlist, those are the moments I live for. I'm like, oh, hey, yes.
Thank you for being here and supporting me. This is for you.
Yes,
I love
100%.
you. Yes.
So
100%.
good. Plus, I always look for them. I'll be like, oh, is that our connection? I don't even know if authors are going to do it, but I know
it's
I found
so satisfying.
I found Harlow Jane. Well, Harlow Jane's found me this year, and she randomly in book 2 dropped this random town, and I stopped reading and DM'd her, and I said, you can just tell me, it's fine, I know that's the next series. And she was like, what? How did you know that? I'm like, because I live for the Easter eggs.
I've read 700 of these. I know
and I don't get tired of them, but those are the moments I live for. Or when the title, obviously you get the titles of these because they're named, but those, I live for that moment in books, TV shows, movies. They said the name, they said the title, and it works into it. It's those are the moments that are so satisfying.
It's the best.
You are incredible. I am
You're incredible.
I'm blown away by how
for having me. This was so fun. I feel like we've been talking for a while, but it hasn't felt like
I know.
That's what I love about it.
For so long.
That's why I love this, is because this format makes it so chill that we could talk for hours, just girlfriends talking, and that's the way I like it. Also, you will have to come back. It's really not an option.
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to.
I know your schedule's busy, but you're gonna have to come back. Honestly,
maybe around Sawyer or something.
Yeah, I'd love to do. No,
I'd
love to do that. And honestly, I've been trying to get, which I have a couple, but I love to get authors to try to come back on and talk about not their stuff. I'd love to do a 50 Shades deep dive. And
I would do a deep dive. Oh, I would totally. I would love the excuse to brush up.
I would have to do some homework. I'd have to get prepared, but we could do it.
No, so if you're down for that, I think that's going to take you guys out of your little world and
I would
back
love
into
that.
a reader perspective. So it's done. It's going to happen.
Talk to anytime.
I'll let you know we're gonna have Paisley Hope coming back on in the new year, sometime I think in February, and it's for Twilight. We're gonna do a Twilight deep dive.
Okay, you guys do Twilight, and I'm gonna do 50 Shades of Grey with you.
Yes, okay. I know.
Don't ask anybody else.
I will not. And trust me, I write all this stuff down because I am trying to plan up to the baby. So
when are you due?
I'm due June 13th, so June.
Okay.
So May, end of April, May. I think we're gonna start kind of doubling up, so we have full recordings. Where I take a month off.
You throughout the summer.
We would love to have you back for Sawyer, and honestly, just for a full 50 Shades deep
dive. We're gonna do 50 Shades of Grey.
So
yes, that would be so fun.
so fun. You are just incredible. Like, this was such a good chapter. I loved it.
Great. Well, thank you again so much, girls. I really, this was such a pleasure, and I really appreciate you, supporting my work and showing my book so much love.
Always.
And just for asking me to be on here, because, like I said, it's just, it's so fun to be out amongst the living.
You're amazing.
Yes.
We have now claimed you. You're never going to get rid of us, and I will make you come back.
Awesome.
So we are going to have all of Jessica's stuff linked down below. I'll get your conventions you're going to be at. We'll do all that. Instagram, Facebook group. We will just get everything tagged below for you. And wow, this is coming out on Christmas Eve. And then 2 days later, he's in our hands for a little post-Christmas treat.
Yes.
You are wonderful. Thank you. Until
thank you.
The next
you,
time,
guys.
I am your host, Father Lib.
And I am your co-host, Sister Britt.
And I'm Jessica.
Woo! And let's all get one big old yeehaw! Woo!
Yeah!
Yeah! All right, guys. Thank you. Peace and blessings. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Love you all.
Peace and blessings.